Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 1 2017-2018 NFL predictions. Well, it is exciting to be back for another year of NFL predictions, and I am more than eager for the 2017 NFL regular season to start. This Thursday for the opening game, it will be the first meaningful football game, professional football game to be played since Super Bowl 51 and the epic comeback by the New England Patriots that will go down in the history books as one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever in sports history, just in terms of the circumstance. But it's exciting to be just back in general. So many teams have improved, so many teams have started the process of rebuilding, and it's always interesting to see the gamut from the Patriots to the Jets of how these teams are really trying to, really how bad they're going to be, to how great they're going to be. The teams like the Cardinals, the Lions, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Texans, the Jags even. All these teams that they have talent and they can either be really good and show that they're aspiring contenders or show that they're really big disappointments and show that this season may be a time to start thinking of rebuilding, like the Jets and the Browns and maybe even more so the Bills have been thinking. So it's always exciting to be back for this aspect of the season. I'm going to be watching as many games as possible, starting with the opener. And it's all great for everybody to be watching me to be back. I also want to say that I am going to be doing for a second year in a row, I will be doing against the spread picks along with my straight up picks, and I will have those in the description in my video after they're done. And I will also put the picks and the games where I talk about them in time slots in my description, so people that want my exact thoughts on one specific game can click on there and see my exact thoughts there. I also want to say to everybody, just like I've said over the last couple of years, that for anybody out there that doesn't like my thoughts on games, or doesn't like my commentary or opinions on certain situations about the season, you guys can watch a different channel. There's multiple different opinions out there that are different than mine, and I respect all of them. And even if you don't like hearing my opinion, you know what? People, you can start your own videos, and you can start making your opinions, and you can have people, praise or agree or disagree with your opinions, and you have every right to enjoy that as well, and that may be better than what you'd think of hearing mine. So any critics about me personally, about how I talk about picks or anything, if you don't like watching my videos, go to a different channel, or make your own picks and make your own comments about what you want to do. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I will also tell all my fans that with my schedule this semester, the plan for me is to make videos either Monday afternoon or Tuesday mornings. So just I know last year I was able to do videos every Monday morning because I didn't have class. This year I have class every day, so Monday afternoons or Tuesday mornings are going to be likely the best times for me to make my prediction videos. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys. And before I get into my picks, I will say once again, I said it in my video, to wrap up last year, that my Super Bowl pick for Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota is going to be the New England Patriots playing the Green Bay Packers. I am going to stick with that, and I truly feel confident that that will be the Super Bowl 52 pick. We'll see how it goes. I feel more confident with New England. Green Bay, they have a lot more challenges to go through with the Giants, the Falcons, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, a lot more credible teams there. And we'll see about that. So, once again, Super Bowl 52 pick, Patriots and Packers. Alright, so time for my picks and thoughts on each game. So, we're going to start off with this Thursday, the opening night game, when the Kansas City Chiefs go to the 5-time Super Bowl champions, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 8-point favorites in this game. I am going to take New England -8, and I'm going to take New England Patriots straight up. with that. And then on Sunday, you're going to have the New York Jets take on the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 9.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Bills straight up, but obviously with these two teams, you're looking at them and saying they are in a rebuilding, tanking type situation. And with the 9.5 points, that's just way too much for me. So I'm going to take the New York Jets against the spread and plus 9.5. But I'm taking Buffalo straight up. The next game, when the Atlanta Falcons go to Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Atlanta -7, and Atlanta straight up. The next game, when the Baltimore Ravens go to the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Baltimore here plus 2.5, and Baltimore straight up. The next game, when the Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Cleveland Browns, the AFC North, what a way to start the year, is playing inside their own division. Pittsburgh is an 8-point favorite in this game. I like Pittsburgh -8 and Pittsburgh straight up. The next game, when the Arizona Cardinals go to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions, this game is a pick-em on the line. So in this one, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals here, both against the spread and straight up. The next game, when the Jacksonville Jaguars go to NRG Stadium to take on the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Houston -5, and I like Houston straight up as well. The next game, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the Miami Dolphins. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tampa Bay -2.5, along with Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, when the Oakland Raiders go to the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are 2-point favorites in this game. I like Oakland +2 and Oakland straight up. The next game, when the Philadelphia Eagles go to the Washington Redskins. This is another pick'em game, just like the Arizona Cardinals-Detroit Lions game. I'm going to take here the Philadelphia Eagles, both against the spread and Philadelphia straight up. The next game, when the Indianapolis Colts go out to the West Coast to take on the Los Angeles Rams. The Colts are 3-point favorites in this game, but this game has gotten so weird with injuries and holdouts and just raw talent on the field. I'm going to do a bit of a weird play here. I'm going to take the Rams against the spread +3, but I'm going to take the Colts here straight up. Kind of like where, you would think, with such a small spread, you would think I would take the Colts with the spread, but I have that much little confidence to kind of hedge my bet there. Just because, but I'm going to take, again, LA +3, but the Indianapolis Colts straight up. The next game, when the Seattle Seahawks go to Lambeau, take on the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay -3 and Green Bay straight up. The next game, when the Carolina Panthers go to Levi Stadium to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Carolina is 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Carolina -5.5 and Carolina straight up. The next game, when the New York Giants go to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys in the Sunday night opener. The Dallas Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Giants +3.5 and the New York Giants straight up. And then in the doubleheader Monday night game, when the New Orleans Saints go to the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I am going to take the New Orleans Saints here +3.5 and New Orleans straight up. And with the Los Angeles Chargers going to the Denver Broncos, same point spread for the home team, same result. I'm going to take the LA Chargers here +3.5 and the LA Chargers straight up. And let me look here. I'll try to adjust. I thought I put down the Baltimore Cincy game spread. Okay, it's actually +3. Cincinnati's a 3-point favorite, so instead of 2.5, I'm going to take Baltimore +3 and Baltimore straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Kansas City Chiefs going to the New England Patriots. This was the one game in the AFC title game last year that I wanted to see. Because out of all the teams in the AFC, the Chiefs were the most efficient and consistent team. I thought of them as a team that was good at everything but not great. But they were not great at anything, at nothing. They were great at nothing, but good at everything. And I was really excited for this matchup to see if, the Chiefs with their efficient Alex Smith, a very good, solid defense, a good running game, and experienced coach. I thought that they could give a challenge to the Patriots. Unfortunately, we didn't see that. They ended up playing Pittsburgh. They ended up playing Houston in the divisional round, and that ended up being a slaughter. So this game was exciting until what happened with the Chiefs' offense this year. Jerry Maclin got released and signed by the Baltimore Ravens, and Spencer Ware, their number one running back, tore his PCL and damaged his LCL and is now out for the year, leaving rookie Kareem Hunt to be the primary running back for the Chiefs. And that's a big step and a big role for this team in Week 1. And then you just look at the Chiefs team. Tamba Ali is on the pup, so he's going to be out for 6 weeks. They just lost Steven Nelson, one of their possible starting corners, to a torn ACL. And you just look at it and go, you have Barry, you still have Peters. They didn't get Joe Hayden, which surprised me. I thought Kansas City should have gone after Joe Hayden. He would have been a great two to pair with Peters in that defense. And I just look at it saying, with the Chiefs, Bill Belichick and the Patriots are going to prepare for Travis Kelce with Rob Gronkowski, and they're going to have help for Tyreek Hill over the top, leaving Chris Conley and Albert Wilson as the primary receiving threats, and I'm not really concerned about them because I think the New England secondary with Gilmore, Butler, Patrick Chung, and McCourty can handle those two receivers in their primary aspects. I also just believe, even though again the Patriots lost Julian Edelman, which is a big injury for their offense, they went through Rob Gronkowski last year. Rob Gronkowski, I believe, missed 10 games, and they won every single game without Rob Gronkowski. I'm not saying that Edelman's kind of the same effect, but that is basically what I'm saying. For Julian Edelman, I don't know if they're going to win all the games, but they'll win more games without Julian Edelman, with guys like Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell, and Danny Amendola filling in the role for Julian Edelman. And I will say this, I think Chris Hogan can have Julian Edelman-type numbers, but Danny Amendola will play the Julian Edelman-type role in terms of positioning on the field. I think this game, look, with how it goes, this could be a somewhat of a competitive game like it was last time. But just looking at the Pats, they're motivated. This is, Brady's 40th, he's 40 years old. He looks better than ever. And just having that emotion along with the commissioner there, maybe they can stick it to him so that this dynasty can continue. I just think the Patriots will go in there with a great mindset to win this game, at least by about 10 points, and start their drive for 6. And also, just for all Chiefs fans out there, it's been 27 years since it was 1990, September of 1990, the last time the Chiefs went into Foxborough and won a game against the Chiefs. Should be a good game, excited, but I'm going to take the Pats here. Defending champs, have a talented roster, more depth, and I just trust that whole team more than the Chiefs. The Patriots are great at everything. The Chiefs are good at everything. The Pats are great at everything. And I'll take great over good. So that's why I'm taking New England -8 and New England straight up. Jets at Bills. Wow, you look at these two teams and what they've done in the offseason. They basically have told their fans and their spenders and the owners, we are rebuilding. The Jets, they don't have Brandon Marshall anymore. They don't have Eric Decker went to the Titans. Revis got cut. Another one of their corners got cut. They traded for Demario Davis, but they let go of David Harris. Quincy Enunwa has a significant neck injury, and he will be out. They traded away Sheldon Richardson to the Seattle Seahawks. They brought in for him Jermaine Kearse. They're starting Josh McCown, a lesser Ryan Fitzpatrick. You really look at this Jets team and say, what are you really going for here? They would tell you they're not tanking, but their actions are telling you they don't really care about winning this year. They are just trying to move on this year and see if they can get a Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen, who last night had a spectacular comeback, 34 points down to beat A&M 45-44 to get a franchise quarterback to start a full rebuild. And honestly, I feel bad for Todd Bowles. If I were the Jets, I would have fired Todd Bowles before the year started because I don't think he deserves to have to go through this misery of trying to carry this team to at least 1 or 2 wins. I think they could get 1 or 2 wins, but they're the team that's most likely to go 0-16 out of all of them. If there was one team I'd have to pick, it would be the New York Jets. Sorry, Logan Schiff. And by the way, check out his picks. He's very good when he does as well. However, if you look at the Bills, they're kind of doing similar aspects of that. The Buffalo Bills, they traded Sammy Watkins away to the Los Angeles Rams. They traded Ronald Darby to the Philadelphia Eagles. They let Reggie Ragland go to the Chiefs. Anquan Bolden retired. They let Zach Brown go. They have Zay Jones as one of their primaries. Tyrod Taylor has a concussion. He may not play, which is huge for the reason why I'm taking the Jets against the spread, because I'm not sure how Nate Peterman, a 5th-round pick out of Pitt, will do in his first game, even though he's getting to play the Jets' defense. I'm trying to think of some of the other aspects of what the Bills have done, but they basically have kind of shrunk their rosters as well and kind of shown that they're trying to rebuild by getting, 2 second-round picks, 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, I believe, in next year's draft from all the trade moves they've done. This game is really not going to be interesting. I would call it one of the crappy toss-up games of the week because both these teams I don't think are going to be good. But I'm going to take the Bills here just on the fact of sheer talent alone. I just think, again, you have Nate Peterman, who I think can play well enough compared to McCown. They have LaShawn McCoy, who's running better than a 34-year-old early 30 Matt Forte, who's on his last leg. They have Curse and Jermaine Curse and Robbie Anderson are going to be their primary receivers, at least in Buffalo. You got Zay Jones, you got Matthews, who have shown to be a bit more productive. The Bills have a bit of a better offensive line, and they have just better defensive talent to work with in this scenario. And they're home, so I just feel with all that combined, the Bills should be able to win this game. Would I be a little surprised that the Jets won? Yeah, but I think with the 9-point spread, that's why I'm going to give them that, because I just think this is going to be like a 13-10, 10-7 type game where there's really not going to be that much scoring involved. It's going to be defensive driven, and it's just going to be a miserable game to watch. But I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills here. They have a little bit more better talent edge. They just have a little bit more of a sense of structure and a bit more of a respectable team compared to the Jets. And in this kind of game, that's what I'm going to lean with. So that's why I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to beat the New York Jets. Falcons over Bears. This was fairly easy. The Atlanta Falcons, they, in the preseason, look like they have not lost a step at all. Sanu, Gabriel, Jones all look fantastic. They still have Hooper and Toilolo at tight end. The offensive line looks great. Devontae Freeman became the second highest paid running back in the NFL, which with what he has done over the last 2 years, he's deserved that kind of pay raise. They brought in Dontari Poe. They still have Vic Beasley. They still have Brian Poole, Deion Jones. Desmond Trufant is going to come back from an injury. They lost Jalen Collins for 10 games, and that's going to be significant. But I don't think against the Bears team that really doesn't have that many offensive weapons to be scared about, especially with Cameron Meredith tearing his ACL. That was huge because I thought he was going to be their number 1 receiver. They also cut wide receiver Victor Cruz, so you're going into a season with Kevin White, who's been a bust since he's been in the league due to injury. Kevin White, Kendall Wright, and Marcus Wheaton as your primary 3 receivers. I'm not really that scared about that, and I don't think it's going to be that great of a lineup to work with anyway. You still have Grady Jarrett, who I'm a big fan of, big nose tackle. He was really big in the Super Bowl last year. And I just think in Atlanta, they look like the team that has the most opportunity in the NFC South to maintain their control of the NFC South this year. Tampa is going to be their biggest threat because Tampa has a team that's very similar. But I think Atlanta, with their experience and just their talent, they should be able to decimate Chicago fairly easily in a quick game. And I believe Dan Quinn, he's been there 2 years. This will be his first road opener. And I just think going up against Chicago, who's been a horrible road team over the last over the last couple of years. They should be able to get this one fairly easily. So that's why I'm going to go Atlanta -7 and Atlanta straight up. The next game, the Ravens at the Bengals. This is a division game that's been always weird, and for me as a Ravens fan, it's been always difficult to really try to, trust the Ravens going into Cincinnati. We haven't beat the Bengals in Cincinnati since 2012. They've won 4 straight times in Cincinnati. It's really irritating, but there have been 3 things that happened this game that have really kind of helped change my mind, and it's because of 3 players. Vontaze Burfict is serving a 3-game suspension. It was a 5-game suspension due to a low hit to Kansas City fullback Anthony Sherman, but after going through the appeals process, it went down to 3. I might not have given him that appeal just because he doesn't have the reputation. He has the reputation of doing those hits his entire football career, so I would have stuck with the 5-game suspension, but that's just me personally. Then you have Pac-Man Jones, who suspended 1 game, and that's one of their starting corners. And then you have John Ross, who could be out due to an ankle sprain he suffered in the last game. I don't even know why he played the last game, because he's one of their starting receivers. He's their number 2, planning on to be their number 2 wide receiver, and he's out there in the last game, which is meaningless. Those are the 3 reasons why I'm going with the Ravens. I watched every Ravens preseason game, and I will tell you, our defense looks fantastic. It looks like an old-school Raven defense. I believe we only gave up 2 or 3 offensive touchdowns the entire preseason. You could say, again, you're playing a bunch of second and third stringers. Fine, but still, that's really impressive. The problem for me, though, is the offense. It's really shaky. We have Terrence West, but we've had so many injuries as well. It's ridiculous how we've lost Kenneth Dixon, Albert McClellan, Alex Lewis. We lost Tavon Young. He tore his ACL. Tavon Young. We lost Pitta. We lost Crockett Gilmore. Joe Flacco's been dealing with an injury. So we've had so many injuries right off the bat that I don't feel that confident that hopefully our team can survive week 1 and not come away with any more injuries. But with that being said, kind of just with the experience of Flacco and just this defense, knowing what the Bengals don't have and knowing how good our defense is, I think Flacco can do enough with the offense, especially in the passing game. They had Danny Woodhead, who is one of the better underrated pass-catching running backs if he's healthy. Hopefully he doesn't blow his ACL out on the second and third play of the first or second game like he did last year for the LA Chargers. But I just feel with the Ravens, this defense has enough firepower, and the Bengals are going in with not as fully a loaded deck as they would have. And with that being said, I feel confident enough to take the Ravens in this game, to get off the away Bengals schneid, and start off the season for the second year in a row 1-0. It should be a great game. It's going to be a close, tough game. It's going to be one of those heart attack games that every Ravens fan has to go through. But I'm going to take the Ravens here. Hard defensive game, but no Burfict, no Ross possibly, and no Pac-Man Jones. That should be a good enough offset to get the Ravens their first win in Cincy since 2012. That's all like Baltimore +3 and Baltimore straight up. Next game, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. This is one where history will tell you kind of how the edges. Pittsburgh is by number 3 team in the AFC, and for the first time in years, and possibly just because of also Big Ben, retiring after this year, this is the most loaded Steeler team they've had in the last 3 years. Le'Veon Bell, for the first time in 2 years, will be eligible to play, and he signed his franchise tag today, so he could be out there week 1. He should be out there week 1. Martavius Bryant is reinstated. They have Antonio Brown. They have Juju Schuster. They have Jesse James. They have Vance McDonald, who they traded for the Niners from. They brought in J.J. Wilcox from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They brought in Joe Hayden from the Browns. This is a team that is going all in for this year to build as big a team as possible to compete against the New England Patriots. Where, if you look at the Browns, they've made some decent moves. They're starting their 27th quarterback in franchise history, rookie Deshaun Kaiser from Notre Dame. You then have, they let go of Hayden. They traded away Cameron Irving, their center, Brock Osweiler, the guy that they're paying $16 million for this year, was cut and signed by the Denver Broncos today for 1 year. They're going in with one of the better offensive lines. They re-signed J.C. Treader. They have Joe Thomas already on that line. They have Kevin Zeitler coming in from the Bengals, which will be really big. They let go of Gary Barnidge, but they have David Njoku at tight end. They have Corey Coleman. They let go of Terrell Pryor, but they're bringing Kenny Britt. And then you have Isaiah Crowell, who's kind of playing in a make-or-break type situation for his future, not only in Cleveland, but maybe in the NFL, as a starting number 1 running back. I look at this scenario and just say, if the Pittsburgh Steelers last year can beat the Cleveland Browns with all their backups basically playing, they can beat this Cleveland Brown team with all their starters playing. And even though the Browns, they have a roster and they have talent that can improve enough. Because I think if Hugh Jackson can't go 5-11 or 6-10 or better, a 4 or 5 win increase, I would fire Hugh Jackson this year. Because I think this team, even though again you could say, letting go with Joe Hayden and Cameron Irving is not really smart moves to do that. Look, they have enough talent and they've moved enough quota and gained enough talent to say they can win 4 to 5 extra games this year, which would be good enough, to give them a third year to try to get to that 500 spot. But to go back to the game, I really look at the Steelers here as just the supreme team. Ben Roethlisberger in his career has only lost 2 times, I believe, to Cleveland in Cleveland. It's remarkable what he's done, and just looking at how talented this team is, this should be arguably the easiest game for the Steelers to play Week 1. It'll be interesting because of the division rivalry, but I trust Pittsburgh enough with that team to win the game fairly easily. So that's why I like Pittsburgh -8 and Pittsburgh straight up. Next game, Cardinals at Lions. This is a interesting game in terms of, this is a pick-em, and I can see why. I would tell you, I would not be surprised if the Detroit Lions win this game. They have a roster with Glover Quinn, Darius Slay, Ziggy Ansah came off the pup. They brought in Rick Wagner, even though they traded their offensive guard Lakeland Tomlinson to the Niners for a 5th-round pick. They also cut Cyrus Kouandjio from the Bills. They brought in Greg Robinson. Amir Abdullah should be healthy. You have Ebron playing for, a make-or-break year. You have Tate. You have Marvin Jones. At receivers, you have Galloway. I forget his first name, but it'll come to me later. But a receiver, Galloway, who they really like. You have Tavon Wilson. You have a decent Lions team, and you also have the $135 million man in Matthew Stafford, who is now the highest-paid quarterback and highest-paid player in NFL history. I do believe that he did not deserve that, and just with these NFL quarterback contracts, they are telling you that with the market value, you just need to be able to complete passes at a high rate and throw for a lot of yards. Because winning doesn't matter. Matthew Stafford is 5-43 against above 500 teams. Matthew Stafford is 0-3 in the postseason. He also has a below average overall record. I believe he's 51-56 or 53. Yeah, 51-56 or 53-56 in his career. You pay the guy the highest paid for that kind of resume. I get that Stafford, was phenomenal. He broke last year the record for most fourth quarter comebacks in a season, but they were all against average or below average teams. Think about that. If that luck went the other way, the Lions could have been one of the worst teams in the league, and Jim Caldwell could have been fired. So, I don't like the Stafford move just because I feel like we're getting to a point where Kirk Cousins probably will overshadow Stafford and let Stafford get a pass for his contract. But for quarterbacks, we're just looking at it now in terms of we just need an arm that can throw to be competitive. We need you to complete passes and throw yards. You don't need to win games. I know, they always say, it's a team sport, and I understand that. But quarterbacks are like pitchers, where, if you had a starter in baseball, kind of the same way, he, could throw you 6 or 7 innings and play pretty well, but he got you into a jam. Then, you pulled him out and then got him into, the bullpen blew it. is that his fault, or could, over time, if you're paying him that much money, he has to win eventually. So, but to get back to the game, I'm going to take the Cardinals here, just because I just trust Arians and this team a little bit more than the Lions. You have, a grizzled Carson Palmer, who's playing, I believe, his last year. I'm not sold that he's going to do great, but I think he can do well enough to get this team at least above 500 and into the playoffs as a wild card. And just looking at the team, you have David Johnson, who's coming off an ACL injury. That's big, but we'll see how that goes. And I think he will be back to form sooner than later. You have Larry Fitzgerald, you have John Brown playing well, you have J.J. Nelson, you have Jermaine Gresham, you have one of those solid offensive lines, and you have Deion Buchanan, Pat P., Tyrann Mathieu, Chandler Jones, Robert Condichis look decent, and he can, kind of start becoming a factor, hopefully. And I just trust this old, Cardinal coaching staff that's, been more consistent than not against the Lions team that, if they play Arizona right, they may get into a fourth quarter situation again. But I believe this time the Cardinals will be able to stop any Lions momentum in their home opener to start out. Should be a great game. Should be pretty competitive, and I will not be surprised if the Lions win. I'm going to take the Cardinals here. Trust the older coaching staff. And they just have a little bit more talent and sense of structure compared to the Lions. So that's all, like Arizona over Detroit. The Texans over the Jaguars. This is going to be one of those weird games where the quarterbacks are the only ugly thing about this. The offensive lines are both decent. The running backs, you have Fournette and you have Miller. Fournette hopefully can play, and Miller's proven to be a solid running back in this game. You have receivers up and down the wazoo of talent, and you have defenses loaded with talent. It's just the quarterbacks that's the problem. But I'm going to say this: Blake Bortles has led the league with pick sixes since he's come in the league with 11. He's thrown the most of them against the Houston Texans with 3, and this is the only team that Blake Bortles has not been able to beat in his NFL career in the division. He is 0-6 against them. I look at this Houston defense. They're going to get to play one of their former teammates, in A.J. Boye, who went to the Jags. But you have Kevin Johnson, you have Jonathan Joseph, you have Andre Hall, you have Kareem Jackson, you have a decent secondary. You have one of the better front sevens with the Whitney Mercilesses, the Brian Cushings, the J.J. Watts, who will be 100%, Jadeveon Clowney, 100%. This will be the first time, hopefully, the Texans can see their dynamic duo on the edge, wreak havoc on the Jacksonville offensive line. I'm going to be looking at the matchup between nose tackle DJ Reader and highest paid NFL center Brandon Linder, who everybody, is saying that he's one of the best centers and earned that contract. I could think of 6 or 7 centers, but we'll see. So I'm going to be watching Brandon Linder, Mr. $10 million man per year. But I just look at this, and the other thing that's going to be involved for me is the idea of what's gone on in Houston, Texas for the last 2 weeks. My prayers, my condolences, and my well wishes go out to the whole city of Houston that's gone through a tremendous travesty from Hurricane Harvey. Please go out to the Red Cross. Go out to any donations, money, goods. They need everything that they can to try to start rebuilding and resalvaging their city from all the damage that they've had. So anybody out there that's watching that's either been affected by Hurricane Harvey personally or have friends or family that have been affected, my prayers and condolences and my well wishes go to you and to everybody out there. Please donate money, contributions, anything to help the city of Houston get back on its feet. And with that, the reason why I said that just because I wanted to, this is going to be a very emotional game for the Houston Texans. They are going to want to perform phenomenally, either along for this opening game and for this year, just to give the city of Houston something to enjoy, something to be proud of, and say we're on our way back, and we're going to show you how good we're going to be. And I just think for a Jacksonville team that's gone through lots of ups and downs, been very dysfunctional, they're going with Blake Bortles, who I believe who is a bust, going into a year without his fifth-year option. This is just going to be a long day for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to, want to help the Texans personally, but they're going to want to get out there as soon as they can because they just know it's going to be a long day this Sunday when the Texans play them in the first game in NRG Stadium after the hurricane, especially after they opened up that stadium for all the people that lost their houses last week. Also, I want to commend J.J. Watt for over the $18 million he has donated to help Hurricane Harvey victims. So that's why I'm going to take Houston here -5 and Houston straight up. Tampa Bay and Miami. This one was basically just kind of based off talent. Miami, they're going with Vaping Jay Cutler. Smoking Jay Cutler. The modern day Jeff George was able to find the golden opportunity to play for his former offensive coordinator Adam Gase, who knows his system very well, and arguably Jay Cutler had one of his better statistical seasons in at least 7 or 8 years with Adam Gase. I commended this decision because I knew this was the right one to do. However, going up against the Tampa team that I would tell you is a top 5 offense just in terms of Jameis Winston at quarterback, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate in the middle, and Adam Humphries in the slot, who is a pretty good slot receiver. This is a top 5 offense that people are going to have to watch out for. The offensive line's still a little shaky, but they've been able to now play for 3 or 4 years, and they're going to get DJ Sweezy back at right guard, and that's going to be very significant. The running game may be their biggest problem, but I like Sims and Rodgers to hold the fort down until Doug Martin comes back. And I expect them to, be able to be effective in the passing game against this Dolphins defense, which was dead last in terms, I think, of total defense last year under Vance Joseph, who's now the coordinator for who's now the head coach for the Denver Broncos. And I just feel that Tampa, they just have more overall talent. It's going to overwhelm Jay Cutler. And Jay Cutler's really not going to bring you any personal motivation to feel confident in afterwards. So I feel that in this game, Tampa has the talent edge. Tampa has and it is such a higher talent edge that they should be able to do Miami in a pretty decisive game. So that's why I like Tampa Bay -2.5 and Tampa Bay straight up. Next game, Raiders and Titans. This game is going to be fun because the Buccaneers in the NFC for me are like the Titans in the AFC. 2 young teams that have all the talent to be playoff teams, and they have all the talent to, make some noise. And I feel, again, last year this game was a very close game. The final score, I believe, was Oakland 17, Titans 10. It was a close game that came down to the goal line. There was a controversial play, I believe, in the end zone where Mariota, I think, threw a touchdown to tie the game, but there was a holding call that was kind of questionable that cost the Titans the game. And I'm really concerned about this Oakland defense because there's just something about them I've watched this preseason. That secondary is god-awful. And just knowing what the Titans have now in Corey Davis, Eric Decker, Delaney Walker, they still have. Trying to think here. I still think they have Sperano. Not Anthony Sperano, but they have a decent offense of weapons to work with. They have Henry and Murray in the backfield. They have one of the better offensive lines in the AFC. But I feel like also at the same time, the Achilles heel for Tennessee was kind of the Achilles heel for Oakland, which was their secondary. Tennessee's secondary last year was not very good. They have made decent additions to it by adding Adoree Jackson, their first-round pick. They brought in Logan Ryan from the New England Patriots. They also brought in, I believe, Jonathan Cyprian from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in this game, when you just look at kind of how both these teams are, I feel like, the Raiders have the better O-line, where the Titans, I think, have the better D-line, just in terms of a whole aspect. Khalil Mack is the best defensive player in the game, but besides that, the Raiders really can't generate that much of a pass rush. But I feel like, kind of how Carr and Mariota are going. Carr has more weapons to throw to and more talent to work with. And I believe the last 2 years they played... they played him in 2015 as well, and Carr won that one on a last-second drive there to a touchdown with Seth Roberts. this is a game that over the last 2 years, which with their teams in town have risen, they've shown that it's going to be a close competitive game. And I'm just going to keep going with the trend here and say that the Raiders, who I believe also were 4-0 on the East Coast and went to Jacksonville, or they won games in New Orleans, Jacksonville, Baltimore, and Tampa. Yeah, they won 4 games on the East Coast last year, so they know how to go out to the East Coast and win. That's going to be enough for me to give the Raiders this victory in a very competitive, very fun game to watch against two teams that one is rising and one has risen to a Super Bowl contending team. So that's why I like Oakland over Tennessee at +2 and straight up. Philadelphia and Washington. This one is just based off Philadelphia has a more complete team. The history doesn't go with me on this one. The Washington Redskins since 2012 are 4-1 against the Philadelphia Eagles at home when they play them. And Kirk Cousins has not lost to them in Washington, I believe. And this will only be the second time they beat him that the Eagles have beaten Kirk Cousins overall. But I just, I love what the Eagles have done. Carson Wentz looks great. The offensive line, Lane Johnson, that looks spectacular. LeGarrette Blount, he hasn't looked great, and I really don't know how effective he will be. But they have 4 or 5 running backs in their stable to be effective enough to win this game. And I just look at Washington and go, they've lost a good amount of talent over this, especially defensively over the offseason. Trent Murphy blew out his ACL and he was going to be out for the year, though he was serving a 4-game suspension anyway to begin it. You had Phil Taylor tear his ACL. You had Ricky Jean-Francois leave. Chris Baker left the team. I'm trying to think. I think the Reds. I believe the Redskins got D'Angelo Hall. Please, if I'm wrong about that, please tell me in the comment section if D'Angelo Hall's still on the team. But I'm just looking at this Redskins defense, and I'm not very impressed with it. And also, if you look at the offensive side, kind of the same way. They waived Matt Jones yesterday, so they're going into the season with their 3 main running backs, being Fat Rob Kelly, Chris Thompson, and Samaje Perine, and I think Perine has the most potential. You have Jordan Reed coming off, an injured toe, though he may play, he may not, but he's going to be shaky. And they lost to Sean Jackson and Pierre Garçon to the Buccaneers and Niners, respectively. And I just feel with, again, Terrell Pryor, Josh Dotson, and Jamison Crowder being your 3 main receivers, I'm not really sold on that as being a great threesome for Kirk Cousins to throw to. This is an interesting game because the Eagles over the last couple years have shown that they've been able to compete against the Redskins, but they somehow are able to blow it at the end, either off a fumble or their defense just crumbles. So again, with Kirk Cousins, somehow this could happen again. But I'm going to take the Eagles here just because I feel like they have enough talent edge and the defense should be better enough to not cause that to happen. And Carson Wentz should be able to start making that next step into a second-year quarterback to beat a team that he almost could have beaten 2 times last year. So, let's see. So that's why I like Philadelphia over Washington. The Colts and Rams game. This one is really hard. It's gonna be better than Bills Jets because I feel that both these teams have higher ceilings than the Bills and the Jets. But I'm gonna take the Rams here +3 just because I just trust the Goff offense in a way. But at the same time, I'm gonna take the Colts because I just know the Colts, they've just had a better track record of winning. Even with Scott Tolzien starting. I really wish Jacoby Brissett, who the Colts traded for after they gave the Pats Philip Dorsett. I really am hedging my bet here just because I don't know. Would I be surprised if the Colts won this game? No, I wouldn't. Because Jared Goff showed last year and really showed in the 3rd preseason game he may not be ready. He got benched for Sean Mannion in the game. So that's kind of the aspect there. But then I look at it just saying it's Scott Tolzien. Scott Tolzien's been a weird backup. He was the backup for the Packers for a very long time. The Colts picked him up, and he's just kind of been able to stay there. He's kind of like Jim Sorgi for Indy with Peyton Manning all those years. Jim Sorgi, he always had a job. He never really had to do anything. But now with luck being at least for week 1, that sucks for that. But yeah, I'm really going to hedge my bet with this one. I think Indianapolis, I trust their, defense enough. I know they want to have Vontae Davis, but Jared Goff really has shown that, he really can't move an offense. And in terms of, the Colts, I'm going to defend. I think Aaron Donald is not going to play, and I think with Frank Gore, who's a little bit over, I think 1,050, 1,060 yards, to becoming this year fourth all time in leading in the NFL in terms of all-time rushing yards. I think if they run the ball enough for Frank Gore, and Tolzien can make some timely throws to Moncrief and to Kamar Aiken and T.Y. Hilton, they should be able to pull this one out in a close game. It's going to be Bills, Jets ugly, but higher upside. I'll put it that way. So that's why in this game I'm taking the weird position of I'm taking the Rams against the spread, but I'm taking the Colts straight up. Next game, Seattle, Green Bay. This is fairly easy for me. I would love to be wrong about this game with Seattle, but I just know the Seahawks last year, they proved that they are not a good road team. This is a true Matt stat here. The Seattle Seahawks on the road only scored 2 offensive touchdowns their entire road schedule. Only 2 offensive touchdowns. Christian Michael had a 3-yard run, and Russell Wilson threw an 11-yard touchdown pass to Luke Wilson. Those are the only 2 offensive touchdowns the Seattle Seahawks scored on the road the entire season last year. They had multiple games. They had a 9-3 loss to the Rams. They had a 6-6 tie against the Arizona Cardinals. They scored 5 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They only put up 10 points against the Green Bay Packers. Also, Russell Wilson has had a nightmare going up against this Green Bay Packers defense. In the last 3 games, he is 1-2 with a touchdown-interception ratio of 4-10. And I just look at it. Look, Seattle offensive line took a huge hit by losing George Fant early, in the preseason. I believe the second game. They re-signed Justin Britt, which was decent. They have Luke Jokel as well, who can be, good. They also, I believe, traded for Matt Tobin, who could maybe contribute a little bit. But also their running back situation is really crowded as well. You have Thomas Rawls, you have Eddie Lacy, you have C.J. Prosise, and you have Chris Carson. I really like Chris Carson. I would like to see him possibly get the starting job, but we'll see. But just knowing with all that being said, I've looked at the Packers, and they have this, Lambeau edge. They're basically unstoppable at Lambeau, and just knowing the last time Seattle went there, they're going to be motivated to play better than that and to maybe show the Packers that, they can get over this Green Bay hump. But with week 1, I'm not going to go with potential or unknown. I'm going to go with what I've known over the last couple years. And just knowing that Seattle's going on the road into Lambeau where they've struggled mightily, that's too much for me to say. For a Green Bay team that looks, like I said, they're going to the Super Bowl, they need a win like this to, drive their ticket and have a great start to get a good seed for the Super Bowl. So, in this one, it's going to be a great game. I hope Russell Wilson and the Seahawks play much better, just because, first of all, I'm a big Russell Wilson fan, but just personally as a fan, just 2 great teams. But I'm going to take the Packers here. Too much struggling for Wilson at O-line on the road, and just, Rodgers at Lambeau with that kind of offense. He should be able to go through that Seattle defense easier than pretty much any other person should. So, most teams should. So that's why I like Green Bay -3 and Green Bay straight up. Next game, Panthers and Niners. Carolina, they have an interesting, roster with the additions of Christian McCaffrey. Who I think is going to be a great running back for them. They brought in Curtis Samuel from the draft. Kelvin Benjamin looks like himself, and he'll be, hopefully he can play up to his potential. They brought Greg Olson's back, but they let go of Michael Orr, but they brought in Matt Khalil. They no longer have Mike Tolbert, which is kind of sad. Mike Tolbert's one of the better fullbacks in the game. And I just look at this Panthers team. They're going to have Luke Kuechly back from an injury. Thomas Davis signed an extension, trying to go through. They still have Kawan Short. They still have Starlo Tulele. James Bradbury was one of the better corners at the end of the year, and he was one of the better rookie corners. So hopefully he can improve there. But then after that, I just feel like, again, like this Panthers team, they're in a weird spot where they can surprise people, but also at the same time they can disappoint people just because I look at the roster and go, okay, besides Olsen and Benjamin and Newton, they really have a bunch of unproven commodities, and the defense, it's up and down. But they're playing a San Francisco team, which, I'll say this, they look better than I thought they would. San Francisco, Brian Hoyer looks like a much better fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense compared to Bill O'Brien's. Pierre Garçon was in that offense. Marquise Goodwin's a great deep threat. They have Carlos Hyde running effectively. They traded for Laken Tomlinson, like I said earlier. The defense looks great. Navarro, Eric Reed, Reuben Foster looks spectacular. DeForest Buckner. They have a team that will, surprise people. The Niners are going in the right track. They may not win a lot of games, but they'll look a lot more competitive than they were last year, and that's all you really can ask for a rebuild like this. But with that being said, I'm going to take Carolina here. I just think, again, Cam, this is a huge year for him. He had a career low in terms of yards and completion percentage and, I believe, touchdowns, and he just didn't look good. If you want people, to really kind of think, what is Cam Newton? Cam Newton really needs to step up against the Niner defense, which is improved, but with the talent they have, they should be able to make plays and score enough points to win this game. It should be a great game, but I'm going to take Carolina here. A little more experienced, a little more talented, and a little more motivated in this situation to win a game, to start the year off right, to see if they can kind of contend for the wild card spots. So that's all, Carolina minus 5.5 and Carolina straight up. Next game, Giants and Cowboys. I'm taking the New York Giants because Dallas, they have too many defensive suspensions and injuries. Damian Wilson is, I believe, suspended. Randy Gregory's out for the year. David Irving's out for the first 4 games. Nolan Carroll could possibly be suspended. Ezekiel Elliott has a suspension possible. Let's see. With all those suspensions and all those, kind of looming over, I really don't see, how the Cowboys, can win this game. I think, Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris, decent running backs. Darren McFadden 2 years ago, without Zeke, while Zeke was still at OSU, was 5th in the league in rushing behind that offensive line. So obviously, the Cowboys can still run the football, effectively, whoever gets the ball. But just knowing what Zeke did, and with the possibility of just knowing that he'll be out week 1, I just don't think, the Giants, or I don't think the Cowboys are going to be effective enough just throwing the ball against the secondary with Sean Davis, Landon Collins, Cromartie, Jenkins, and Eli Apple. And also, again, the Giants in going into Dallas in 2013, I believe this is only now, I think, it would be, I think, the second time, they've only lost 1 time in the new Cowboy Stadium since it opened. So, that's how I feel about that. It should be a great game. I think Dallas, they'll look better than they did last year. But also, if you just think about it, who was the number 1 defense the Cowboys struggled against the most? It was the New York Giants. So that's why I like the New York Giants plus 3.5. The New York Giants straight up. Next game, New Orleans and Minnesota. I'm going to take New Orleans here over Minnesota just because I trust the offense over the defense. This is a great battle of strength against strength on both and weakness against weakness. I'm going to trust the Saints offense here. I would not be surprised if all of the Vikings won this game. Just because if their defense, can get enough stops and Bradford can get good, field positions, they can win this game, with a decent offensive line and Murray and Cook running the ball effectively. But I'm just going to trust this Saints offense, knowing what they have in Michael Thomas, Coleman, and I forget the other receiver. They have Kobe Fleener still there and Drew Brees, that they can go into, the Viking Stadium and win this game in a close way. And it's just kind of the adage of this one, the higher the scoring the game, the more confident I'll feel in New Orleans. The lower the scoring the game, I'll have to trust that the Sam Bradford offense is the Sam Bradford offense, which goes 10 yards at max, 20 yards every once in a solar eclipse, and that the Vikings, won't be able to move the ball that far down the field enough, quickly enough to win the game. And also, it'll be fun to see Adrian Peterson get to go back to Minnesota for his first game to see how those fans feel. I think they should give him a round of applause. He's done a lot of great things for him, and that's kind of the reception I hope he gets. So that's why I like New Orleans plus 3.5 and New Orleans straight up. Finally, the last game, Chargers at Broncos. I'm going to take the LA Chargers here based off of two aspects. One, the quarterback. I think, Phillip Rivers, going into week one, he's always played well against Denver. And he has this fully talented load of roster around him. They lost Forrest Lamp to an ACL tear, which is significant. But they have Melvin Gordon. They have, Russell Okung now on that line. They have other aspects of that line which can, be decent enough against the Denver pass rush. I want to have DeMarcus Ware or Shane Ray going at it for them, just with Vaughn being the main guy. And then, two, I just look at Denver and say that, with Trevor Siemian, he struggled against, the Chargers, I believe, the last time they played him. It was a tough game. And I just don't know, in this kind of scenario, with Osweiler being out there, Paxton now kind of being on the back burner for the next few weeks, I wonder if he's going to feel the pressure and start playing bad enough that causes Osweiler, to get in the job, and Osweiler to try a second time to lead the Broncos to a better way. So we'll see. It should be a great game. You got, two teams that kind of have positives and negatives and different edges by a wide margin, but a lot of the things kind of are similar. But we'll see. But again, I'm going to take the LA Chargers here. Better quarterback, and with no Shane Ray, DeMarcus Ware, and TJ Ward, Talib and Harris, they're going to be tough. But I feel like with Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates in the middle, that should be a good enough combo to kind of spread the defense out a bit and let the wide receivers for the Chargers make plays, then get them this victory. So those are my thoughts on all the games this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the other NFL YouTube prognosticators like Bridgewater's Finest, Geo Knows, Hatbox Nation, Half Moon's Picks, Logan Schiff, Doug Barrett, Edwin Lerner, and all the other great progs out there. And that's it. So until next time, this is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, signing off. And everybody out there, good luck to all the players, teams, coaches, fantasy players, and fellow prognosticators. And I will see you all again next week. Till then, so long.